The stars were dying one by one. Ambassador Veltar pressed his four-fingered hand against the cold metal wall of the command center. Through the transparent aluminum windows, he could see the beautiful blue-green world of Zephyr Prime burning. Massive black ships hung in the sky like angry clouds, raining death from above. The Krex Dominion had come, and with them came the end of everything his people had built over 10,000 years. "Ambassador, the western cities are gone," reported Commander Thesila, her voice cracking through the translation device. "The Krex are using their planet crackers. They're not even trying to capture anything, they just want to destroy us." Veltar closed his large dark eyes. The Zephyrian Collective had always been a peaceful alliance. 7 star systems, 14 habitable worlds, and over 40 billion souls who had never known war. They built beautiful crystal cities that sang in the wind. They created art that could make emotions visible in the air. They had technology that could heal any disease and extend life for centuries. But they had never built weapons of war. The Krex Dominion was different. They were conquerors who moved from system to system like a plague of metal and fire. They had been expanding for over 1,000 years, absorbing or destroying every civilization they met. Their technology was built for one purpose: to kill and conquer. "How long before they reach the capital?" Veltar asked. 6 hours, maybe 7. Thesila replied. "Our shield generators are failing. The civilian transports can't evacuate fast enough." Veltar walked to the central command console. The holographic display showed the entire Zephyrian space. Red dots marked Krex ships. They were everywhere, like a disease spreading through healthy tissue. 3 star systems had already fallen completely. The other 4 were under attack. Only Zephyr Prime remained, and barely. "Have we heard anything from the other members of the Galactic Council?" he asked. Thesila's expression darkened. "The Altair Federation says they are monitoring the situation. The Centauri Republic has closed their borders. The Crystal Singers of Vega have gone silent. No one wants to fight the Krex, Ambassador. They're too strong, too ruthless." Veltar nodded sadly. He understood. The Krex had a simple policy. Any civilization that helped their enemies would be completely destroyed. Not just defeated, destroyed. Every planet burned, every station smashed, every trace of their existence erased. It was effective diplomacy through terror. The command center shook as another wave of Krex bombardment hit the planetary shields. The lights flickered, and several technicians cried out in fear. Through the windows, Veltar could see pieces of burning debris falling from the sky. Those were probably the remains of Zephyrian ships that had tried to fight back. "Ambassador," called Chief Technician Mortis from across the room. "I'm getting something strange on the deep space sensors. It's a transmission, but it's not from any known frequency." Veltar hurried over to the sensor station. "Show me." The technician activated a holographic display. Strange symbols appeared in the air, flowing like water. "It's some kind of automatic beacon. The signal is weak, very distant. The computer estimates it's coming from the edge of our galaxy, in a region we've never explored." "What does it say?" "The translation matrix is having trouble. The language structure is completely unknown, but I think it's a greeting. Someone saying hello to the galaxy." Veltar stared at the symbols. A new species just discovered, at the edge of known space. He felt a desperate idea forming in his mind. "Can you trace the signal back to its source?" "Yes, but Ambassador, it would take weeks to send a message that far, and we don't have weeks. We have hours." "What about quantum burst transmission?" Veltar asked. Mordes looked shocked. "That would use our entire remaining power grid. We'd lose life support, weapons, shields, everything. And there's no guarantee the message would even reach them, or that they could understand it." Another explosion rocked the command center. This time, the lights went out completely for several seconds before the emergency power kicked in. When the lights returned, half the control panels were dark. "Ambassador, the northern shield grid just collapsed," Thesila reported. "Krex, ground forces are landing. We have maybe 3 hours before they reach this facility." Veltar looked around the command center. His people were scared, hopeless. They had tried everything. Their most advanced weapons couldn't even scratch Krek's armor. Their fastest ships couldn't escape Krek's pursuit. Their best diplomats couldn't negotiate with beings who saw no value in anything except conquest and destruction. Mortis, prepare the quantum burst array, he said quietly. Ambassador, that's suicide. If we use all our power for the transmission, we'll be defenseless. We're already defenseless, Veltar replied. But maybe, just maybe, someone out there will help us. He walked to the communication console and activated the recording system. How do you ask for help from a species you've never met? How do you explain 10,000 years of peaceful civilization to beings who might not even understand the concept of peace? Unknown species of the Outer Rim, he began, speaking slowly so the translation system could work properly. My name is Veltar, of the Zephyrian Collective. We are a peaceful alliance of 7 star systems. We have never made war, never conquered other worlds, never taken what was not freely given. He paused, looking out the window at the burning cities below. We are being destroyed by an enemy called the Krek's Dominion. They are powerful beyond our ability to resist. They kill not just our soldiers, but our children, our artists, our teachers. They burn our worlds not because they need them, but because they can. Another pause. The building shook again, and he could hear explosions getting closer. We have tried to fight. We have tried to run. We have tried to hide. Nothing has worked. The other civilizations of this galaxy are too afraid to help us. In a few hours, the last of our worlds will fall. Billions will die, and our culture will be erased forever. He took a deep breath. I do not know if you can understand this message. I do not know if your people are warriors or peacemakers. I do not know if you even care about the fate of strangers. But if you have any mercy in your hearts, if you have any strength in your ships, if you have any courage in your souls, please, help us. He paused one final time, then added, We are dying. If there is any goodness left in this galaxy, please, someone, anyone, help us. Veltar ended the recording and looked at Mortis. Send it. Use everything we have. Ambassador, this is madness. Even if they receive the message, what could one unknown species do against the Krek's Dominion? I don't know, Veltar admitted. But sometimes madness is all that's left. Mortis hesitated, then activated the quantum burst array. The remaining lights in the command center dimmed as massive amounts of energy were channeled into the transmission system. The message, compressed into a quantum packet, shot out toward the edge of the galaxy at speeds that bent the laws of physics. As the transmission ended, the command center went completely dark. Emergency power was gone. Life support was failing. Through the windows, Veltar could see Krek's dropships landing just outside the city. What now, Ambassador? Tassila asked in the darkness. Now we wait, Veltar replied, and hope that somewhere out there someone is listening. In the distance, the sound of Krek's war machines grew louder, but the message was already traveling toward Earth at impossible speeds, carrying with it the desperate hope of a dying civilization. The message arrived at Earth's deep space communication array at exactly 14:32 GMT on a Tuesday afternoon. Dr. Elena Rodriguez was drinking her 3rd cup of coffee when the quantum burst detector started screaming. That's impossible, she muttered, staring at the readings. The energy signature was unlike anything in the database. Sarah, get down here! Dr. Sarah Martinez rushed down from the upper observation deck. What's wrong? Did we lose another satellite? No, something much weirder. We just received a quantum burst transmission from outside the galaxy. The power levels are off the charts. Sarah leaned over Elena's shoulder to look at the data. Outside the galaxy? That can't be right. No one has that kind of transmission power. The computer is analyzing the signal structure now, Elena said, pointing at the main screen. It's definitely artificial. And Elena, it's directed specifically at us. They watched as the translation software worked to decode the alien message. Humanity had only discovered faster-than-light travel 15 years ago. They had found evidence of other civilizations, but this was their first direct contact. When the translation finished, Both scientists read the message in stunned silence. "Oh my God," Sarah whispered. "They're asking for help." Within an hour, the message was sitting on the desk of Admiral Sarah Chen, commander of Earth's Deep Space Defense Force. She read it 3 times before calling an emergency meeting of the Terran Defense Council. The council chamber in Geneva was designed to hold representatives from every nation on Earth. Today, it held the fate of an alien civilization in its hands. "Ladies and gentlemen," Admiral Chen began, "we have received a distress call from a species called the Zephyrian Collective. They claim to be under attack by something called the Krex Dominion. They are asking for our help." Secretary General Williams frowned. "Admiral, with respect, we've only had interstellar capability for 15 years. We've never engaged in space warfare. What could we possibly do against an enemy that has defeated an entire galactic civilization?" "I understand your concerns, Mr. Secretary," Chen replied, "but the message suggests that other species in their galaxy have refused to help out of fear. If we don't act, an entire peaceful civilization could be wiped out." Defense Minister Petrov leaned forward. "Admiral, let's be realistic. We have maybe 200 ships total. Most of them are exploration vessels and cargo haulers. Our military fleet consists of 12 frigates and 3 experimental battleships. Against a galactic empire, it would be suicide." Admiral Chen nodded, slowly. "You're right. On paper, it is suicide. But I keep thinking about something my grandfather told me about World War II. He said that sometimes the smallest actions can change everything. Sometimes all it takes is someone willing to stand up and fight." "This isn't World War II," argued economic advisor Zhang. "This is interstellar warfare against an enemy we know nothing about." "Exactly," Chen said. "And that might be our advantage." She activated the holographic display in the center of the room. "I've been talking to our engineers and tactical experts. Dr. Marcus Webb has some interesting ideas about how we could contribute to this fight." Dr. Webb stood up from his seat in the observer section. He was a thin man with wild hair and the intense look of someone who spent too much time thinking about impossible problems. "Ladies and gentlemen," Webb began, "everyone is right. We can't match alien technology with alien technology. But we don't have to." He gestured, and the hologram changed to show Earth's fleet roster. "What we have is something no one else in the galaxy seems to have: desperation and creativity. While they've been developing advanced weapon systems, we've been improvising solutions with whatever we could find." The display showed various Earthships and installations. "Our mining lasers weren't designed as weapons, but they can cut through asteroid rock. Our fusion engines weren't designed for ramming attacks, but they can accelerate a ship to incredible speeds. Our cargo ships weren't designed for war, but they can carry massive amounts of explosives." Defense Minister Petrov looked skeptical. "You're talking about converting civilian equipment into weapon systems that would take months, maybe years." "Not if we think like humans," Webb replied with a grin. "We don't need perfect solutions. We need solutions that work well enough to surprise the enemy." Admiral Chen took over the presentation. "Dr. Webb's team has identified several ways we can quickly convert our existing fleet. Mining ships become mobile weapons platforms. Cargo vessels become troop transports and supply ships. Construction equipment becomes ship-to-ship combat gear." The Secretary General raised his hand. "Even if we could convert our fleet, how would we get there?" The message came from across the galaxy. "That's a journey of months, maybe years." "We've been working on that too," Chen said. "Our new quantum tunnel drive can create temporary wormholes. It's dangerous and untested for long-distance travel, but our scientists think they can modify it to reach Zephyrian space in 3 weeks." The room fell silent. Everyone understood what they were discussing. Earth would be sending its entire military force plus converted civilian ships on a mission that was probably impossible. "There's one more thing," Admiral Chen added quietly. "The message was a quantum burst transmission. That means the Zephyrians used up massive amounts of energy just to send it. They're probably defenseless right now. Every minute we debate, more of them are dying." Williams looked around the room. "I need to ask the obvious question. What if we fail? What if the Krex Dominion decides to come after Earth next? Chen met his gaze steadily. Then at least we'll have tried to help people who asked for our aid. And maybe, just maybe, other civilizations will remember that humans don't abandon their friends. The vote was close. 8 in favor, 7 against. But it was enough. Within hours, every shipyard on Earth was working around the clock. The asteroid, mining ship Iron Mountain, was fitted with military-grade targeting systems and armor plating. The cargo hauler Big Sky was loaded with atmospheric fighters and strike teams. Even the garbage processing ship Clean Sweep was equipped with ramming spikes and nuclear charges. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Indomitable. It was one of Earth's 3 experimental battleships, designed more for exploration than warfare. But now it bristled with improvised weapons and carried the hopes of 2 civilizations. Dr. Webb appeared at her elbow, looking excited and terrified at the same time. Admiral, I've been thinking about what we're actually doing. Here. Oh? We're taking mining equipment, cargo ships, and construction tools to fight an interstellar war. It's completely insane. Chen smiled grimly. Dr. Webb, insanity might be exactly what this situation needs. The Krex Dominion has probably never fought an enemy that doesn't follow the rules of civilized warfare. You mean we're going to cheat? I mean we're going to fight like humans, Chen replied. And humans don't know how to quit. The fleet assembled at the edge of the solar system. 193 ships of various sizes and configurations. None of them looked like proper warships. They looked like what they were. A collection of work vessels converted for war by people who had never seen real space combat. As the quantum tunnel drive charged up, Admiral Chen opened a communication channel to the entire fleet. People of Earth, she began, we are about to attempt something that everyone says is impossible. We are going to cross the galaxy to help strangers who called for aid. We don't know if we can win. We don't even know if we can survive the journey. She paused, looking out at the stars. But we know one thing. When someone calls for help, humans answer that call. And we don't come quietly. The quantum tunnel opened like a tear in space itself. One by one, Earth's ships disappeared into the swirling vortex of twisted space-time, carrying with them the most dangerous cargo in the galaxy, human determination. The human fleet emerged from the quantum tunnel in the middle of hell. Admiral Chen gripped her command chair as the Indomitable shook from the gravitational turbulence. Around them, space was filled with debris, energy weapons fire, and the burning remains of what had once been beautiful crystal ships. Status report, she barked. Quantum tunnel collapse was successful, reported Navigation Officer Kim. All ships accounted for. We're in the Zephyr system, exactly where the message originated. And we're right in the middle of a massacre, added Tactical Officer Barnes, his voice grim. The main view screen showed the nightmare they had stumbled into. Massive black ships, each the size of a small city, hung in formation around a blue-green planet. Continuous streams of fire poured from their weapons, striking the planet's surface and creating mushroom clouds visible from space. Smaller Krex vessels hunted down the few remaining Zephyrian ships like wolves chasing rabbits. My God, whispered Dr. Webb, who was observing from the science station. We're too late. No, Chen said firmly. We're exactly on time. She opened the fleet communication channel. All ships, this is Admiral Chen. We came here to help people who called for aid. Those people are dying right now. Battle stations. The human fleet spread out in a loose formation that would have made any military academy instructor faint with horror. There was no neat line of battle, no organized attack pattern. Instead, the converted mining ships, cargo haulers, and construction vessels moved like an angry swarm of bees. On the bridge of the Krex flagship World Eater, Warlord Thakmor was enjoying the final destruction of another inferior species. The Zephyrians had put up less resistance than usual. Their crystalline ships were beautiful but fragile, and their weapons were designed for mining and construction, not war. Warlord, called his sensor officer. We're detecting new contacts, small ships, unknown configuration. Thakmor barely glanced at the tactical display. More Zephyrian refugees, most likely. Destroy them. Sir, the energy signatures don't match Zephyrian technology, and there are many of them. Now Thakmor looked more carefully. The display showed nearly 200 small ships moving in what appeared to be a completely random pattern. What species would be foolish enough to interfere with a Krex operation? Before his officer could answer, the first human weapons opened fire. The mining ship Iron Mountain had been designed to cut through asteroid rock with precision laser arrays. Captain Rodriguez had always been proud of his ship's ability to slice a mountain-sized asteroid into perfectly measured chunks. Today, he aimed those same lasers at the nearest Krex destroyer. The focused laser beam hit the Krex ship's armor plating and began cutting through it like a hot knife through butter. Krex armor was designed to absorb and deflect energy weapons. It was not designed to handle the concentrated cutting power of an industrial mining laser. "Target is taking damage," reported Rodriguez's weapons officer with surprise. "Their armor is actually being penetrated." "Well, I'll be damned," Rodriguez muttered. "All right, people, let's show them how we mine asteroids in the Sol system." Across the battlefield, similar scenes were playing out. The cargo ship Big Sky released its entire complement of atmospheric fighters, small, fast aircraft that had been designed for planetary defense. In space, they were ridiculously fragile and carried weapons that were laughably weak by galactic standards. But there were 60 of them, and they moved in ways that no space-designed fighter would ever attempt. Pilot Sarah Kim jinked her fighter through a pattern that should have torn the small craft apart. "This is insane," she muttered, then grinned. "I love it." Her fighter's missiles were designed for ground targets, not space combat. They had no advanced guidance systems, no quantum tracking computers. They were simple, direct, and completely unpredictable to enemy countermeasures designed to stop sophisticated weapons. The Krex destroyer's point defense systems fired at the incoming missiles, expecting them to behave like proper military ordnance. Instead, the human missiles flew in ballistic arcs, corkscrewed around obstacles, and even ricocheted off debris. 3 of them actually hit their target. On the World Eater, Warlord Thakmor was no longer bored. "What are these creatures? Their technology is primitive, but their tactics make no sense." His tactical officer looked confused. "Sir, they appear to be using industrial equipment as weapons. That ship is attacking us with mining lasers. That group is firing construction charges at our escorts." "Industrial equipment?" Thakmor snarled. "Are they mocking us?" "I don't think so, sir. They're actually causing significant damage." It was true. The human fleet was ripping through Krex formations like a chainsaw through silk. Their ships were smaller, weaker, and less advanced. But they fought with a ferocity that the Krex had never encountered. They made ramming attacks that violated every principle of space combat. They used their own ships as shields to protect damaged vessels. They even used mining charges as makeshift torpedoes. Captain Elena Vasquez commanded the converted garbage processing ship Clean Sweep. Her vessel had been designed to collect space debris and compress it into manageable chunks. Today she was using it to collect Krex fighters. "Tractor beam active," reported her chief engineer. "We've got 3 enemy fighters caught in our collection array." "Perfect," Vasquez said with a predatory smile. "Activate the compactor." Krex pilots had time for exactly 1 shocked transmission before their fighters were crushed into a neat cube of metal and ejected back into space. Meanwhile, Admiral Chen was learning that space combat was nothing like the simulations. Her ship bucked and rolled as Krex weapons fire struck their improvised armor. Sparks flew from damaged control panels, and the smell of burned electronics filled the bridge. "Damage report," she called. "Forward weapons array is offline," reported Barnes. "Armor plating is holding but barely. 1 more hit like that and we're in trouble." Chen looked at the tactical display. The human fleet was fighting with desperate courage, but they were taking heavy casualties. 3 ships had already been destroyed, and several others were badly damaged. The Krex were recovering from their initial surprise and beginning to coordinate their response. "We need to do something unexpected," she said to Dr. Webb. Webb was frantically working at his science console. "I've been analyzing their weapons patterns. The Krex ships are designed for long-range bombardment. They're not prepared for close-quarters combat." How close are we talking? Ramming distance. Chen stared at him. You want us to ram a ship 10 times our size? Not ram, Webb said with a wild grin. Board. Before Chen could ask what he meant, Webb activated a new piece of equipment that hadn't been in any of the original ship specifications. Emergency magnetic grapplers activated. The Indomitable suddenly accelerated toward the nearest Krex cruiser. The enemy ship tried to turn away, but the human vessel was smaller and more maneuverable. At the last second, instead of ramming, the Indomitable extended massive magnetic clamps that grabbed onto the Krex ship's hull. Now what? Chen asked. Now we do something no civilized species would ever attempt, Webb replied. We go aboard their ship and fight them hand to hand. Airlock doors along the Indomitable's hull blew open, and human Marines in combat armor jumped across the gap between ships. They carried weapons that were primitive by galactic standards: slug throwers, explosive charges, and plasma cutters designed for salvage work. The Krex had never experienced boarding actions. Their ships were designed to fight at long range, with energy shields and advanced weapon systems. They were not prepared for humans with cutting torches and explosives to simply cut through their hull and start fighting in their corridors. Marine Sergeant Maria Santos found herself face to face with a Krex warrior in the ship's central corridor. The alien was twice her size, covered in natural armor plating, and armed with an energy weapon that could have cut her in half. She shot it with her shotgun. The slug thrower's projectiles punched through the Krex warrior's energy shield like it wasn't there, because the shield was designed to stop energy weapons, not primitive kinetic rounds. The alien looked down at the holes in its chest with something like confusion before collapsing. Well, that worked, Santos muttered, then spoke into her radio. This is Santos. Primitive weapons are effective against their personal shields. Repeat, slug throwers are effective. Across the battlefield, human boarding parties were fighting their way through Krex ships using weapons and tactics that were thousands of years out of date by galactic standards. And they were winning. Warlord Thakmor watched his fleet falling apart and felt something he had never experienced before. Fear. These humans fought like demons. They used their own ships as weapons. They boarded enemy vessels and fought in close combat. They showed no regard for their own safety and seemed to take joy in impossible odds. All ships, he transmitted, retreat to minimum safe distance. Prepare orbital bombardment weapons. We'll destroy the planet and these mad creatures with it. But as his ships began to pull back, something new appeared on his sensors. The few surviving Zephyrian vessels, inspired by the humans' impossible courage, were moving to attack positions. Ambassador Veltar, somehow still alive in the ruins of the planetary command center, watched through a damaged telescope as human ships fought alongside the last of his people's fleet. He had sent a message into the dark, hoping for a miracle. The miracle had arrived, and it was more terrifying and wonderful than anything he could have imagined. The battle had been raging for 3 hours, and space around Zephyr Prime looked like a graveyard of metal and dreams. Burning ship debris drifted in slowly expanding clouds. The beautiful crystal formations that had once been Zephyrian vessels sparkled in the light of their dying star. But among the wreckage, something impossible was happening. The humans were winning. Admiral Chen watched the tactical display with amazement and growing hope. When they had arrived, the Krex fleet had consisted of 47 major warships and over 200 support vessels. Now, 17 Krex ships had been destroyed or disabled, and many others were retreating to safer distances. The cost had been terrible. Earth's fleet was down to 112 operational ships. The mining vessel Iron Mountain had been destroyed, taking out a Krex battlecruiser. The cargo ship New Horizon had sacrificed itself to save a group of Zephyrian refugee transports. But for every human ship lost, they had taken 2 or 3 Krex vessels with them. Admiral, reported Dr. Webb from his improvised engineering station, I'm getting some interesting data on Krex technology. Their ships are incredibly advanced, but they're designed around completely different combat principles. Explain, Chen Ni said, ducking as another enemy energy blast shook the bridge. They build ships to fight at long range against other advanced civilizations. Their shields are designed to stop energy weapons and guided missiles. Their armor is optimized against plasma cannons and quantum torpedoes. Their tactics assume rational opponents who follow established rules of space warfare. Chen smiled grimly. And we're doing none of those things. Exactly, we're using kinetic weapons from close range, we're making ramming attacks. We're boarding their ships and fighting with primitive weapons their computers don't even recognize as threats. To their tactical systems, we're like a virus they can't identify. On the bridge of the World Eater, Warlord Thakmor was experiencing his first military defeat in over 200 years of conquest. His tactical officers stared at their displays in confusion, trying to understand how primitive ships were systematically destroying his fleet. "Report," he growled. "Sir, the enemy is using weapons we've never encountered," said his chief tactician. "Their projectile weapons penetrate our shields completely. Their ramming attacks are causing structural damage that our repair systems can't handle. And their boarding tactics—" The officer paused, looking disturbed. "Sir, they're fighting inside our ships with handheld weapons. Our warriors are trained for energy combat, but these humans use explosive projectiles and bladed weapons. It's barbaric." "Barbaric, but effective," Thakmor admitted. "What about the native species? Are they still a factor?" "The Zephyrians have regrouped, sir. They're coordinating with the human forces. Their ships are weak, but they're using human tactics now. And, sir—" The officer hesitated. "Some of our own crews are beginning to panic. They've never faced an enemy that fights like this." Thakmor understood. The Krex Dominion had conquered hundreds of worlds, but always against civilized opponents who fought according to established rules. The humans fought like wild animals, unpredictable, vicious, and completely willing to die if it meant taking enemies with them. A new alarm sounded on the bridge. "Sir, we're detecting massive energy buildup from the human flagship." On the indomitable Admiral Chen was about to try something that every safety manual in the fleet specifically prohibited. "Dr. Webb, are you absolutely certain this will work?" Bion looked terrified and excited at the same time. "Admiral, I'm not certain about anything anymore, but our quantum tunnel drive creates a localized space-time distortion. If we activate it inside a gravity well, we could create a temporary black hole," Chen finished. "Or we could tear a hole in reality and kill everyone in this star system." "Those are definitely possibilities," Webb admitted cheerfully. "But we could also create a gravitational pulse that disrupts every ship in the area." Chen looked at the tactical display. The Krex were beginning to reorganize. Their commander was pulling back to bombard the planet from safe range. If they succeeded, billions of Zephyrians would die and the human fleet would be too small to stop them. "Do it," she decided. Webb's fingers flew over his controls. "Quantum tunnel drive reconfiguring for gravitational pulse. All ships, move to minimum safe distance. This is either going to be brilliant or catastrophic." Throughout the fleet, human engineering teams performed miracles of improvisation. The cargo ship Big Sky used its atmospheric processors to create artificial gravity wells that confused Krex targeting systems. The mining ship Deep Digger turned its ore refinement systems into weapons that fired streams of superheated metal. Even the medical ship Mercy got into the fight, using its surgical lasers to disable enemy sensors. Captain Rodriguez of the converted waste management vessel Clean Sweep had discovered something wonderful about Krex technology. Their ships were designed to be perfectly clean and sterile. They had no experience with Earth's most abundant resource, garbage. "Load torpedo tube 3 with everything from the forward waste processing unit," he ordered. "Sir, that's 3 tons of mixed organic waste, recycled plastics, and food scraps," his weapons officer replied uncertainly. "Perfect. Fire when ready." The improvised projectile hit a Krex destroyer at nearly 1/10 the speed of light. The impact didn't cause significant structural damage, but it covered the enemy ship's hull with a layer of Earth garbage. More importantly, it clogged their sensor arrays and air recycling systems. The Krex crew, who had never encountered biological contamination, panicked. They spent the next hour trying to clean their ship instead of fighting. Meanwhile, human medical teams were doing something else that had never been seen in galactic warfare. They were treating wounded enemies alongside their own people. Dr. Lisa Park, Chief Medical Officer of the Mercy, found herself performing surgery on a Krex warrior who had been injured during a boarding action. "This is incredible," she said to her nurse. "Their physiology is completely different, but the basic principles are the same. Look at this bone structure." The Krex warrior, sedated but conscious, stared at her with multiple eyes. He had expected to be tortured or killed. Instead, these strange bipeds were actually healing his injuries. "Why?" he managed to ask through the translation device. Dr. Park looked up from her work. "Because you're hurt, and I'm a doctor. That's what we do." The concept was so alien to Krex, thinking that the warrior's brain couldn't process it. These humans fought like demons, but they also saved lives without distinction between friend and enemy. Word of the humans' medical practices spread through the Krex fleet's communication networks. For the first time in their species' history, Krex warriors began to wonder if surrender might be an option. Admiral Chen felt the indomitable shudder as the modified quantum tunnel drive reached full power. Around them, space began to bend in ways that shouldn't have been possible. Gravitational pulse in 3, 2, 1, firing. A wave of twisted space-time erupted from the human flagship and rolled across the battlefield at the speed of light. When it hit the Krex ships, their perfect formations suddenly became chaotic tumbling. Their weapon systems, calibrated for normal gravity, began firing wildly. Their navigation computers crashed as they tried to process gravitational readings that made no sense. "Direct hit on all enemy vessels," reported Tactical Officer Barnes with amazement. "They're completely disoriented." "All ships attack now," Chen ordered. "Hit them while they're confused." The human fleet swarmed forward like angry hornets. Ships that had been retreating suddenly reversed course and charged into the disorganized Krex formation. Mining lasers found their targets. Improvised torpedoes struck home. Boarding parties jumped from ship to ship in the chaos. On Zephyr Prime, Ambassador Veltar watched through his damaged telescope as the impossible happened. The Krex fleet, which had seemed invincible just hours before, was falling apart. Their perfect formations were broken. Their advanced ships were being destroyed by converted mining equipment and garbage haulers. "Commander Thessaila," he called to his aide. "Can our remaining ships join the attack?" "Sir, we only have 12 vessels left and they're all damaged." "Then we attack with 12 damaged ships," Veltar said firmly. "These humans came across the galaxy to help us. The least we can do is fight alongside them." The surviving Zephyrian vessels, their crystal hulls cracked but their spirits renewed, moved to join the human fleet. They had learned something from watching the humans fight. Sometimes courage mattered more than technology. Warlord Thakmor watched his fleet disintegrate and felt an emotion he had not experienced in centuries: respect for an enemy. These humans fought with a combination of primitive brutality and tactical brilliance that he had never encountered. They were willing to sacrifice everything for people they had never met. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "we've lost over 60% of our fleet. The remaining ships are requesting permission to retreat." Thakmor looked at the tactical display one more time. The human fleet was battered and reduced, but they were still fighting, still protecting the planet below, still refusing to give up. "Signal the fleet," he said quietly. "Begin withdrawal to the edge of the system." "Sir, are we retreating from inferior technology?" Thakmor considered the question. "No," he said finally. "We are retreating from something far more dangerous than superior technology. We are retreating from superior courage." The final battle began when Warlord Thakmor made his last desperate decision. "If we cannot defeat them in space," he announced to his remaining fleet, "then we will complete our original mission. Prepare the planet-killer weapons. We will destroy this world and everything on it." Admiral Chen watched the Krex fleet repositioning themselves for orbital bombardment. The massive weapons that could crack a planet's crust were powering up, their energy signatures visible even from their current distance. "How long until they can fire?" she asked. 47 minutes, reported Dr. Webb grimly. "And Admiral, our quantum tunnel drive is completely exhausted. We can't create another gravitational pulse." Chen looked around the bridge of the Indomitable. Her crew was exhausted, injured, and running on determination alone. Half their systems were damaged or destroyed. They had started with 193 ships. Now they had 87 operational vessels, and most of those were barely holding together. Options? She asked. We could try another frontal assault, suggested Tactical Officer Barnes. But their remaining ships are their strongest ones. We'd lose everything before getting close enough to stop the bombardment. We could evacuate as many Zephyrians as possible, offered Dr. Webb. Our cargo ships could take maybe 1 million refugees. Chen shook her head. There are 4 billion people on that planet. We didn't come here to save a fraction. We came to save them all. She stood up from her command chair and walked to the view screen. In the distance, the blue-green world of Zephyr Prime turned slowly in space. She could see the lights of cities that were still burning from the earlier bombardment. Somewhere down there, Ambassador Veltar was probably trying to coordinate evacuations, knowing that most of his people would never escape in time. There is one option, Chen said quietly. We take the fight directly to their flagship. Barnes looked shocked. Admiral, that ship is 3 kilometers long and armed with enough firepower to destroy our entire fleet. Which is exactly why they won't expect us to attack it directly, Chen replied. She turned to Dr. Webb. Can we use the magnetic grapplers to board that ship? Webb's eyes widened. Theoretically, yes. But Admiral, even if we could get aboard, it would be a suicide mission. There must be thousands of Krex warriors on that ship. Then we better bring lots of ammunition, Chen said grimly. She opened the fleet communication channel. All ships, this is Admiral Chen. The enemy is preparing to destroy the planet we came to save. I am leading a boarding assault on their flagship. This is a volunteer mission only. Anyone who wants to withdraw should do so now. She waited for responses. None came. Ma'am, came the voice of Captain Rodriguez from the clean sweep. With respect, where the hell would we go? We came here to help people, and the job isn't finished yet. Similar responses came from across the fleet. Captain Martinez from the mining ship. Deep Digger. Admiral, my ship's held together with duct tape and prayers, but she'll make one more run. Captain Thompson from the cargo hauler. Big Sky. We've got Marines ready to board. Just get us close. Enough. Chen felt a surge of pride that almost brought tears to her eyes. All right, people. Let's go teach the Krex Dominion what happens when they threaten people under Earth's protection. The human fleet formed up for one final attack. Their ships were battered, their weapons were running low on ammunition, and their crews were exhausted. But they flew straight toward the largest, most heavily armed vessel in the Krex fleet without hesitation. On the bridge of the World Eater, Warlord Thakmor watched the approaching human ships with something approaching admiration. They must know this is hopeless, he said to his tactical officer. Yes, sir. Our weapons can destroy their entire fleet before they get within boarding range. Then why are they attacking? The tactical officer had no answer. In 2 centuries of conquest, the Krex had never encountered a species that would throw themselves into certain death for strangers they had just met. Thakmor activated his personal communication array. Human Admiral, he transmitted, I am Warlord Thakmor of the Krex Dominion. You have fought bravely, but this battle is over. Withdraw your ships and I will allow you to leave this system. Admiral Chen's response came back immediately. Warlord Thakmor, this is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Force. We appreciate the offer, but we didn't come here to leave. We came here to help people who called for aid. Stand down your weapons and withdraw from this system. Thakmor laughed despite himself. Admiral Chen, you have perhaps 100 small ships. I have a fleet that has conquered star systems. Your defeat is inevitable. Maybe, Chen replied. But you know what? We're going to make you earn it. The human fleet accelerated toward the Krex flagship. Energy weapons fire filled space as the enemy ships tried to stop them. The mining ship Iron Will exploded in a brilliant flash of light. The cargo hauler Starbound was cut in half by a plasma cannon. But the remaining ships kept coming. The Indomitable led the charge, its hull scarred and blackened, but its weapons still firing. Admiral Chen stood on her bridge as explosions rocked the ship around her. Distance to target, she called. 3,000 meters and closing, Barnes reported. Hull integrity at 40%. Forward weapons offline. Magnetic. Grapplers? Still functional. Then let's go visiting. The Indomitable slammed into the side of the World Eater like a missile striking a mountain. The magnetic clamps engaged, locking the smaller ship to the massive hull of the Krek's flagship. Around them, other human vessels followed suit. The cargo, ship New Dawn, attached itself to the enemy ship's weapon array. The mining vessel Deep Digger clamped onto the engine section. Across the hull of the World Eater, human boarding parties began cutting their way inside with industrial tools and military explosives. They carried weapons that were primitive by galactic standards but effective in close combat. Shotguns, assault rifles, and plasma cutters designed for salvage work. Admiral Chen led the assault on the command section personally. She had argued with her officers about this decision, but in the end she knew she had to be there. If Earth's fleet was going to die in the corridors of an alien warship, their admiral would die with them. The cutting torch broke through the hull plating, and Chen was the first through the breach. She found herself in a corridor that was designed for beings much larger than humans. The ceiling was 4 meters high and the walls were covered in displays showing alien writing. "Spread out," she ordered her Marines. "Remember, their personal shields don't stop kinetic weapons. Aim center mass and keep moving." The first Krek's warriors they encountered were completely unprepared for human tactics. They carried energy weapons and war armor designed to deflect plasma bolts. They had never faced enemies who charged at them with projectile weapons and explosive charges. Marine Sergeant Santos led her squad through a maze of corridors, following directions from the ship's computer that Dr. Webb had somehow managed to hack. "Left here," she called. "Command center should be 2 levels up." They reached an elevator shaft that was clearly designed for much larger beings. "How do we get up there?" asked Corporal Martinez. Santos looked at the shaft, then grinned. "We improvise." She pulled a magnetic clamp from her equipment belt and attached it to her rifle. Climbing gear, Marine style. Meanwhile, other human boarding parties were causing chaos throughout the ship. Captain Rodriguez's team had taken control of the main power plant and was systematically shutting down weapon systems. Dr. Park's medical team had somehow convinced a group of Krek's engineers to surrender by offering to treat their wounded. The router, most effective boarding party was led by Captain Thompson, who had discovered that the ship's waste management system was controlled from a central location. "If we can't beat them with superior firepower," he announced, "let's beat them with superior plumbing." By the time Admiral Chen reached the command center, half the ship's systems were either offline or under human control. The blast doors to the bridge had been sealed, but the Marines made short work of them with shaped charges. Chen stepped through the smoking breach to find herself face-to-face with Warlord Thakmor. The Krek's commander was nearly 3 meters tall, covered in natural armor plating, and armed with a weapon that could have cut her in half. "So," Thakmor said through the translation device, "the human admiral comes to surrender personally." Chen raised her sidearm, a simple projectile weapon that looked like a toy compared to the Krek's warrior's energy rifle. "Actually, I came to offer you a chance to surrender." Thakmor laughed. "You are in my ship, surrounded by my warriors, and you offer me surrender?" "Look around," Chen said calmly. For the first time, Thakmor noticed that his bridge crew was staring at their displays with expressions of shock and confusion. His tactical officer looked up. "Sir, we're reading human forces throughout the ship. They've taken control of weapons, engines, life support, and they're everywhere." "How is that possible?" Thakmor demanded. "They don't fight like any species we've ever encountered," the officer replied. "They use weapons that bypass our defenses. They coordinate without central command. They improvise solutions faster than our computers can adapt." Chen kept her weapon trained on the Krek's commander. "Warlord, you can order your fleet to destroy this ship and kill us all, but if you do, you'll die too. And your planet killer. Weapons will still be offline. The people of Zephyr Prime will live." Thakmor considered his options. His fleet was in chaos. His flagship was overrun with human Marines who fought like demons and showed no fear of death. The species he had expected to crush in minutes had systematically destroyed his forces using nothing but courage and improvisation. "Why?" he asked finally. Why do you fight so hard for strangers? Chen lowered her weapon slightly. Because someone called for help, and humans answer that call. Because there are 4 billion people on that planet who just want to live in peace. Because sometimes the right thing to do is also the hardest thing to do. Dakamore looked at this small, fragile being who had somehow defeated his entire fleet. In 2 centuries of conquest, he had never met anyone like her. I yield, he said, setting down his weapon. Warlord Thakmore of the Krex Dominion yields to Admiral Chen of wherever you come from. Earth, Chen said simply. We come from Earth, and when Earth answers a call for help, we come in strength. 3 hours later, the Krex fleet was withdrawing. From Zephyrian space under the escort of battered human vessels, Ambassador Veltar stood in the ruins of his command center, watching the impossible sight of his world's salvation. Admiral Chen, he transmitted to the human flagship, how can we ever repay this debt? Chen's voice came back, tired but warm.
Ambassador, there's no debt. When someone calls for help, you help them. That's what decent people do.
As the human fleet prepared for the long journey home, word was already spreading throughout the galaxy. A new species had emerged from the outer rim. They fought with primitive weapons and impossible courage. They protected strangers and showed mercy to enemies. And when they answered a call for help, they came in strength.